Some nights, the rain falls not to cleanse, but to witness. The alley behind the Eastern Market reeked of rotting vegetables and despair. Alara pressed herself against the stone wall, knees drawn to her chest, rain streaming down her face like the tears she'd stopped shedding weeks ago. The cardboard she'd salvaged from the bakery's refuse bin had turned to pulp an hour into the storm. She was 23 and invisible. The rejection had come on the autumn equinox, delivered with clinical efficiency by Alpha Marcus of the Thornwood Pack. "You bear no mark of worth," he'd said, his voice flat as winter stone. "The pack cannot sustain dead weight. You have until moonrise to leave our territory. No ceremony, no trial, just exile." Her wolf had gone silent that night, retreating so deep within her that Alara sometimes wondered if she'd imagined it altogether. Perhaps she was broken. Perhaps Marcus had been right. The rain intensified, drumming against the cobblestones with violence. Alara's fingers had gone numb an hour ago. Her thin dress, the only one she owned, clung to her frame like a burial shroud. Pneumonia would come soon. Maybe that was mercy. She closed her eyes. The sound of footsteps made her flinch. Heavy boots, deliberate pace. Alara curled tighter, making herself small. Predators hunted these streets after dark, rogues, traffickers, worse. She held her breath. The footsteps stopped. "You're dying." The voice was male, deep, edged with something between concern and command. Alara didn't look up. If death wore boots tonight, let it be quick. Fabric whispered in the rain. Warmth descended over her shoulders, heavy, dry, smelling of pine and smoke and something ancient. A cloak, wool-lined and midnight blue, settled around her trembling body like shelter. Alara's eyes snapped open. The man stood 3 paces away, rain streaming down his face, soaking through his tunic. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with silver threading through dark hair, despite appearing no older than 35. Scars mapped his forearms. His eyes were storm gray and unsettlingly direct. "I don't need charity," Alara whispered, though her fingers clutched the cloak instinctively. "This isn't charity." He crouched, bringing himself level with her gaze. "This is pragmatism. The dead can't answer questions, and you look like someone with answers." "I have nothing." "You're still breathing. That's more than nothing." He tilted his head, studying her with an intensity that made her wolf stir for the first time in weeks. "When did you eat last?" "I don't remember." He stood, extending a hand. "There's an inn 2 streets north. The owner owes me a debt. Come." Alara stared at his palm, calloused, scarred, steady despite the rain. Every instinct screamed trap. Strange men didn't help homeless omegas out of kindness. They collected debts of a different currency. But hypothermia was collecting its own debt, and her body had begun to shake uncontrollably. She took his hand. His grip was warm, firm, lifting her to unsteady feet with effortless strength. The cloak remained around her shoulders as he turned north, his hand at her elbow to steady her stumbling gait. "What's your name?" he asked as they walked. "Alara." "Pack?" Her throat tightened. "None." He nodded, as if this explained everything. They moved through narrow streets slick with rain, past shuttered windows and locked doors. The city after midnight belonged to ghosts and the desperate. "You?" she managed. He was silent so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "Kieran." Just the name. No pack, no title, no explanation. The inn materialized from the rain, a squat stone building with light bleeding through cracks in the shutters. Kieran pushed open the door without knocking. Heat rushed out, making Alara's skin prickle with painful awareness of how cold she'd become. An elderly woman looked up from behind the bar, her expression shifting from suspicion to shock when she saw Kieran. "My lord." "A room," Kieran interrupted. "Hot water, food, and your silence." The woman's eyes flicked to Alara, taking in her bedraggled state, the expensive cloak, the carefully maintained distance between them. Understanding flickered across her weathered face. "The rose room is clean," she said quietly. "I'll bring broth and bread." Kieran guided Alara up narrow stairs, his hand still at her elbow as if expecting her to collapse. The rose room was small but clean, a bed with actual linens, a wash basin, a window overlooking the rain-dark street. He released her and stepped back, creating space. "Wash, eat, sleep. We'll talk at dawn." "Why are you helping me?" Kieran paused at the threshold, rain still dripping from his hair. His gray eyes held something old and weary. "Because I know what it means to be left for dead. And because sometimes the moon puts broken things in our path for a reason." He closed the door before she could respond. Alara stood shaking in the warm room, Kieran's cloak still draped around her shoulders, smelling of him, pine and smoke, and something that made her wolf whisper a single word before retreating again into silence. "King." Dawn arrived gray and hesitant, the storm having exhausted itself some time before sunrise. Alara woke to unfamiliar softness, clean sheets, a pillow that didn't smell of mildew, warmth that didn't come from huddling against stone. For 3 heartbeats, she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back. The rain, the stranger, the cloak that still lay folded at the foot of her bed. She'd washed in water that had actually been hot, eaten broth that tasted of real chicken, slept without fear for the first time in 6 weeks. And she owed it all to a man whose eyes held secrets deeper than exile. A knock interrupted her spiraling thoughts. "Alara." Kieran's voice, measured and calm. "May I enter?" She pulled the thin blanket higher. "Yes." He entered carrying a tray, more bread, cheese, what looked like actual eggs. He'd changed clothes, trading yesterday's rain-soaked tunic for a simple shirt and worn leather vest. Without the storm as backdrop, she could see him clearly. The silver at his temples, the scar along his jaw, the way he moved with controlled power that spoke of decades of training. He set the tray on the small table by the window. "Eat first, then we talk." Alara's stomach betrayed her with an audible growl. She rose, acutely aware of wearing only the borrowed shift the innkeeper had provided, and sat across from him. The eggs were still warm. "You called him my lord last night," she said between bites. "The innkeeper." She's old-fashioned. That's not an answer. Kieran leaned back, studying her with that same unsettling intensity. "You're bolder when you're not dying of exposure. You're evasive when asked direct questions." The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Fair. Yes, I hold a title. No, it's not relevant to why you're here." "Then why am I here?" He was quiet for a long moment, gaze distant. Outside, the city was waking. Cartwheels on cobblestones, vendors calling their wares, the mundane rhythm of survival. 3 weeks ago, Kieran began, my oracle delivered a prophecy. She said I would find what I'd been searching for in the rain, broken and abandoned, wearing the face of mercy I'd never shown myself. His eyes locked on hers. She said I would recognize her by her silence, a wolf who'd stopped speaking. Alara's hand froze halfway to her mouth. "I don't understand." "Neither do I. But Mira's visions have never been wrong." He leaned forward, forearms on the table. "Tell me about your pack, about your exile." The bread turned to ash in her mouth. "Why?" "Because broken things interest me. Because the moon rarely makes mistakes. Because you're still alive despite having every reason not to be, and that suggests purpose." "I have no purpose. My own alpha said I was worthless." "Your alpha was a fool." The certainty in his voice made something crack in her chest. Alara set down the bread, hands shaking again. Not from cold this time. "Thornwood pack," she whispered. "I was Omega-born, lowest rank. My parents died when I was 12. The pack tolerated me, fed me scraps. Let me sleep in the storage rooms. I thought if I worked hard enough, stayed quiet enough, proved myself useful enough. She laughed, bitter. Alpha Marcus rejected me publicly during the equinox gathering, said I contributed nothing, gave me 2 hours to leave. And your wolf? Went silent, like she agreed with him. Kieran's expression darkened, or like she was protecting you from a pain that would have destroyed you both. Alara looked up sharply. You don't know that. I know that wolves go silent for only 2 reasons, mortal injury or mercy. He stood, moving to the window. Rain had left the streets gleaming like polished bone. I also know that Marcus of Thornwood is a political coward who exiles anyone who threatens his carefully maintained mediocrity. I didn't threaten anyone. Didn't you? He turned back to her. An Omega who survives parental loss, pack neglect, and systematic erasure, who keeps breathing despite every message telling her she shouldn't. That's not weakness, Alara. That's defiance wearing a mask of compliance. Her throat closed. No one had ever spoken to her like this, like she mattered, like her survival meant something beyond stubborn refusal to die. What do you want from me? Honestly, I don't know yet. Kieran crossed his arms. But Mira doesn't send visions without cause. You're connected to something larger. The question is whether you're willing to discover what. I'm homeless, packless. I can barely feed myself. You were homeless. Past tense. His voice gentled. I'm offering you a choice, Alara. You can take 50 silver coins, walk out that door, and build whatever life you can manage. Or you can stay, accept my protection, food, shelter, and help me understand what the moon sees in putting us on the same rainy street at the same desperate hour. That's not a fair choice. Fairness is a luxury. I'm offering survival and purpose. Whether you believe in the purpose is secondary to whether you want to keep living. Alara stood, moving to the window beside him. The city sprawled below, all those lives, all those packs, all those belonging places she'd never have. If I stay, she said slowly, I want truth. No more evasions, no more half answers. Agreed. And I want to know who you really are. Kieran was quiet so long she thought he'd refuse. Then he pulled something from his pocket, a ring, iron and old, carved with symbols she didn't recognize. My name is Kieran Ashwood, he said, voice low. King of the Northern Territories, ruler of 12 packs, bearer of the Moonblood crown. He met her eyes. And 3 years ago, I sentenced my own mate to death for treason. I've been searching for redemption ever since. The room tilted. Alara gripped the windowsill. You're the... Yes. And you think I don't know what you are, but the moon sent me to that alley. And I learned long ago not to question her guidance, even when I don't understand it. Ilara's wolf stirred again, pressing against her consciousness with sudden urgency. Not speaking, but awake, more awake than she'd been in weeks. Outside, church bells rang the hour, 7 times, a new day, a new choice. I'll stay, Alara whispered, until I understand why. Kieran's expression shifted, relief, maybe, or recognition. He extended his hand. Then we find answers together. She took it, and this time her wolf didn't retreat. The king's residence wasn't a palace. Alara had expected towers and thrones, gold and ceremony. Instead, Kieran led her through winding streets to a fortified manor house on the city's northern edge, stone and timber, functional rather than ostentatious, surrounded by walls designed for defense rather than display. The capital is 3 days' ride north, he explained as they crossed the courtyard. I maintain this outpost for less formal business. Meaning sometimes a king needs to move through his territories without parade and protocol. He pushed open the heavy oak door. Welcome to the House of Ghosts and Second Chances. Inside, the manor breathed with quiet purpose. Servants moved efficiently through hallways lit by practical lanterns rather than crystal chandeliers. The furniture was worn but well maintained. Maps covered every wall, territories, trade routes, pack boundaries marked in careful detail. A woman emerged from a side corridor, 60-ish, gray-haired, with the bearing of someone accustomed to command. Her eyes swept Alara with clinical assessment. "This is Mera," Kieran said. "My oracle, advisor, and the only person who tells me when I'm being an idiot. Which is frequently." Mira's voice was dry as autumn leaves. She circled Alara slowly. "So, you're the Rain Girl. I have a name. Good. You'll need spine for what's coming." Mira stopped in front of her. "Show me your hands." Alara extended them, confused. Mira took them, turning them palm up, studying the lines and calluses with intense focus. Her expression shifted, surprise, then something deeper. "Kieran," she said quietly. "Look at her left palm." He moved closer. Alara tried to pull away, but Mira's grip was iron despite her age. "I don't see," Kieran began, then stopped. "That's not possible." "What?" Alara demanded. "What do you see?" Mira traced a finger along a faint scar on Alara's palm. So old, Alara barely remembered getting it. "This mark. It's the sign of the Pathfinder. Extremely rare. I've only read about it in texts from the old times." "Pathfinder?" The word tasted strange. "Those who can sense truth through lies, find the lost, read the currents of fate before they fully form." Kieran's voice was tight. The old kings kept pathfinders in their inner circles. They were hunted to near extinction 400 years ago during the Purge because their gift was seen as dangerous. "I don't have any gift," Alara protested. "I'm nobody. Have you ever known something was wrong before anyone told you?" Mira interrupted. "Felt danger before it arrived? Known when someone was lying just by their presence?" Alara's mouth went dry. Everyone feels those things. "Not like this. Not with the certainty that makes your bones ache. Not with the knowledge that comes without words." Memories surfaced, knowing her mother would die 3 days before the fever took her. Sensing Marcus's rejection a week before he spoke it. The way lies had always tasted like copper in her mouth when people spoke them near her. She'd thought everyone experienced the world this way. "It's dormant," Mira said to Kieran, "suppressed by trauma and starvation. But it's there. The mark doesn't lie." Kieran ran a hand through his hair. "This changes everything." "I don't understand," Alara said, pulling her hands free. "What does this mean?" "It means," Kieran said slowly, "that Marcus didn't exile you because you were worthless. He exiled you because on some level he sensed what you were, and Pathfinders make weak alphas very, very nervous." The room spun. Alara sat down hard on a nearby bench. "I need air." "There's a garden through the east door," Mera said, gentler now. "Go, process. We'll still be here when you're ready." Alara fled. The garden was small, walled, filled with herbs and winter roses. She sank onto a stone bench, head in hands, trying to make sense of a world that had turned inside out in 24 hours. Yesterday, she'd been dying in an alley. Today, she was sitting in a king's garden, being told she carried some ancient gift she'd never asked for. Overwhelming, isn't it? She looked up. A young man stood in the doorway, maybe 25, with warm brown skin and kind eyes. He carried a tray with tea. "Mira thought you might need this. I'm Tobias. I manage the household. Also occasionally save people from oracle-induced existential crises." Despite everything, Alara almost smiled. "Does that happen often?" "More than you'd think." He set the tray beside her. "Kieran has a habit of collecting strays and broken things. Usually they arrive less dramatically than you did." "I'm not broken." "No," Tobias agreed. "Just bent. There's a difference." He poured tea, something herbal that smelled of chamomile and honey. "He's not what you expected, is he?" "The king." "I didn't know what to expect." Most people expect monsters. Or saints. He's neither. Tobias handed her the cup. He's just a man who made a terrible choice and has been trying to atone for it ever since. His mate, Celine. She betrayed the Northern Territories to rival packs, cost hundreds of lives. The law demanded execution. Kieran carried it out himself. Tobias's voice was carefully neutral. He's never forgiven himself for loving someone capable of that, or for what her death made him. What did it make him? Careful, isolated, convinced that mercy is weakness and connection is liability. Tobias met her eyes. Until 3 weeks ago, when Mera's vision suggested maybe the moon wasn't done with him yet. The tea was warm, sweet, grounding. Alara sipped it slowly. I don't know how to be what he needs. Maybe you're not supposed to. Tobias stood. Maybe you're just supposed to be what you are and let the rest unfold. He left her alone with winter roses and questions that had no easy answers. An hour later, Kieran found her still sitting in the garden, empty teacup in hand. I owe you an apology, he said, leaning against the wall. I should have prepared you better. Mera has a gift for devastating truth-telling. Is it true? About the Pathfinder mark? Mera doesn't lie. Ever. It's annoyingly inconvenient. And you think that's why Marcus exiled me? I think Marcus is a petty tyrant who saw something in you he couldn't control and chose the coward's path. Kieran moved closer. But that's only part of it. The real question is what you do with this knowledge. I don't even know how to use it, how to make it work. That's what we'll discover, together. He paused. If you still want to. Alara looked at him. This king who'd covered her with his cloak, fed her, offered truth and protection without asking anything in return, who carried his own wounds like penance. Your oracle said you were searching for something. What? Redemption, forgiveness, proof that I'm more than the worst thing I've ever done. His voice was quiet. Maybe proof that mercy can exist alongside justice. And you think I can help with that? I think the moon put us on the same rainy street for a reason. And I learned a long time ago that the moon's reasons are usually worth discovering. Ilara stood, setting down the teacup. Her wolf was fully awake now, pressing against her consciousness with steady insistence. Teach me, she said, about the Pathfinder gift, about how to survive in a world that sees people like me as dangerous. Kieran extended his hand. On one condition. What? You teach me how someone who had every reason to give up kept choosing to breathe instead. She took his hand, and this time, the connection felt like recognition, like coming home to a place she'd never been. And now, I invite you to leave a trace of your presence in the comments. Tell us where in the world you're watching from and the exact hour you hear this story. We wish to know how far these northern confessions travel and at what moments of the night they find you. Training began at dawn. Ilara woke to Tobias knocking softly, carrying clothes that actually fit. Practical tunics, warm leggings, boots that didn't leak. She dressed quickly, finding Kieran waiting in the courtyard, 2 wooden practice staffs in hand. We start with basics, he said, tossing her one. Your gift requires focus. Focus requires discipline. Discipline begins with the body. The staff nearly slipped through her fingers. I thought we were training my abilities. The mind and body aren't separate. Master one, strengthen the other. He took a fighting stance. Defend yourself. He moved like water and lightning, testing her reflexes with strikes that stopped just short of actual contact. Ilara stumbled, blocked poorly, fell twice in the first 5 minutes. Again, Kieran said, patient as stone. They trained until her muscles screamed. Then Mera appeared, leading Alara to a quiet room lined with books and herbs. Physical training builds the vessel, the oracle said. Now we work on the gift itself. She lit 3 candles, arranging them in a triangle. Pathfinders sense truth, but truth has layers. We start with simple exercises. She placed 3 stones in front of Alara, identical in size and color. One of these came from the riverbed, one from the mountain, one from a grave. Tell me which is which without touching them. Alara stared. How am I supposed to? Stop thinking. Start feeling. The stone knows what it is. Listen. It felt absurd, but Alara closed her eyes, breathing deeply, extending her awareness toward the stones like Mara instructed. At first, nothing. Then, a whisper. A texture that wasn't physical. The leftmost stone felt cold in a way that had nothing to do with temperature. Death cold. Grave cold. The middle stone hummed with movement, flow, endless patience. River. The right stone stood solid, ancient, unmovable. Mountain. Grave, river, mountain, Alara said, eyes still closed. Mira's approval radiated like warmth. Good. Again. They worked for hours. Stones became more complex, lies and truths written on paper, sealed boxes hiding different objects. Eventually, people walking past the open door while Alara practiced reading their emotional signatures. You're stronger than you think, Mira said during a break. The starvation suppressed it. Proper food, safety, practice, it's waking up fast. It feels invasive, reading people without permission. It is. That's why pathfinders were feared. The gift doesn't ask consent, it simply reveals. Mira's expression was serious. You'll have to decide your own ethics around this. I can teach technique. Morality is yours to determine. That evening, Alara found Kieran in his study, surrounded by reports and maps. He looked up when she entered. How was training? Exhausting, exhilarating, terrifying. She sat across from him. Mira says I'm progressing quickly. Because you're finally being fed and safe. Your body remembers what it's supposed to do. He set down his quill. Question for you. Would you use your gift on someone if it meant preventing harm, even if they didn't consent to being read? Alara considered. That's what you meant about ethics. Everything has consequences. Gifts, especially. He leaned back. 3 years ago, I had a pathfinder in my court, before Celine's betrayal. She sensed Celine's treason before I did, warned me. I didn't believe her. Called her paranoid, dismissed her concerns. His jaw tightened. 200 people died because I chose love over truth. That wasn't your pathfinder's fault. No, it was mine, for not trusting her gift when it mattered most. He met Alara's eyes. I won't make that mistake again, but I also won't ask you to bear that burden without understanding its weight. A knock interrupted them. Tobias entered, expression grave. My lord. Message from Thornwood Pack. Kieran's whole demeanor shifted, from thoughtful to dangerous in a heartbeat. Speak. Alpha Marcus requests an audience, says it's urgent. Something about a missing Omega and accusations of kidnapping. The room went cold. Alara's hands clenched. He's coming here? Apparently seeking justice. Tobias's tone was dry. He arrives tomorrow with a delegation. Kieran stood slowly, controlled rage in every movement. He exiles you, leaves you to die, and now claims protection rights. The audacity. Let him come, Alara said quietly. Both men looked at her. Alara, Kieran began. Let him come, she repeated, stronger now. I want to face him. I want him to see what I've become. Her wolf rose, pressing forward with sudden fierce certainty. And I want to know why he's really here, because this isn't about justice. Marcus doesn't care about me. Mira appeared in the doorway as if summoned. The girl's right. Marcus is a political creature. He doesn't make moves without calculation. Her eyes were distant, touched by vision. He knows what she is, or suspects, and he's coming to reclaim what he thinks he can control. Over my dead body, Kieran said flatly. It may come to that, Mira warned. Pack law is complicated. He's her former alpha. Without formal rejection papers, he could argue claim rights. I'll kill him first. Kieran. Alara stood, moving to face him. I'm not a prize to be fought over. I'm not property. If Marcus wants to challenge my freedom, he'll have to do it while looking me in the eyes. Something shifted in Kieran's expression. Pride, maybe, or recognition. You're not afraid. I'm terrified, she admitted. But I'm also tired of being treated like I don't exist, like my choices don't matter. She touched the faint scar on her palm, her Pathfinder mark. If this gift means anything, it means I get to decide my own truth. Kieran was quiet for a long moment, then he nodded. Tomorrow, then. We face him together. He looked at Tobias. Prepare the formal receiving room, full protocol. Marcus wants an audience? He'll get one, with a king, not a highway bandit. Tobias bowed and left. Mira approached Alara, taking her hands. You'll need to be strong tomorrow. Marcus will try to manipulate, threaten, undermine. He's skilled at making people feel small. He already made me feel small for 23 years, Alara said. I'm done shrinking. The oracle smiled, fierce and proud. Good. Then let's prepare you for war. That night, Alara stood at her window, watching the moon rise over the city. Her wolf was awake, alert, waiting. Tomorrow she would face the man who'd tried to erase her. Tomorrow she would prove she was more than his dismissal. Tomorrow she would choose, not survival, but sovereignty. The moon watched, silent and knowing, as Alara finally understood what Kieran had meant about broken things finding purpose. Sometimes you had to be shattered before you could be reforged into something stronger. Marcus arrived at precisely noon, as if punctuality could disguise ambition as propriety. Alara watched from an upper window as his delegation crossed the courtyard. 6 wolves, all bearing Thornwood colors. Marcus at the center wearing alpha authority like armor. He was exactly as she remembered. Tall, broad-shouldered, handsome in a cold way, carrying himself with the assurance of someone who'd never been challenged. Ready? Kieran appeared beside her, dressed formally now, dark coat bearing the Northern Crown's insignia, the iron ring on his finger catching light. No, Alara admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. He smiled slightly. That's the only kind of courage that matters. They descended together, Mira and Tobias falling into position behind them. The formal receiving room had been prepared exactly as Kieran ordered. His throne positioned to catch the light, northern banners displayed prominently, every inch of the space declaring this was a king's domain, not neutral ground. Marcus would not have the advantage here. Guards opened the doors. Marcus entered, his wolves fanning out behind him, and stopped short when he saw the formal arrangement. His eyes flicked from Kieran to the throne to the banners, calculation visible in his expression. Then he saw Alara. Standing beside the king's throne, dressed in deep blue that matched Kieran's coat, hair clean and arranged, holding herself with a steadiness she'd never possessed in Thornwood. Marcus's face went carefully blank. Alara, you're alive. Disappointed? The word came out sharper than she'd intended. Concerned, he corrected smoothly, turning to Kieran. Your Majesty, thank you for receiving us on such short notice. I come seeking clarity regarding one of my pack members who went missing 6 weeks ago. Missing? Kieran's voice was dangerously mild. That's an interesting word choice. She disappeared without trace during a storm. We feared the worst. Marcus's tone was perfectly calibrated. Concerned alpha, worried leader. Imagine my relief when word reached me that she'd been found, sheltered by your generosity. Alara's Pathfinder sense screamed. Every word Marcus spoke tasted like copper, truth twisted just enough to become lie. He wasn't relieved. He was threatened. You exiled me, Alara said flatly. 2 hours to leave. Those were your exact words. A misunderstanding, Marcus said, smooth as oil. A temporary cooling period. I never meant— Stop. Alara stepped forward, and to her satisfaction, Marcus actually retreated slightly. I was there. You rejected me publicly, called me worthless, gave me nothing. No supplies, no coin, no protection. You wanted me gone. The pack was struggling. Resources were thin. I made a difficult choice. You made a cruel one. Kieran's voice cut like steel. And now, you come to my territory, claiming protector rights over someone you abandoned to die? Explain how that logic works. Marcus's mask slipped for just a moment, anger flashing in his eyes before he controlled it. Pack law is clear. Alara was born Thornwood. Without formal release documents, she remains under my authority. Even after exile? Exile was never formalized. There's no paper trail. Marcus's smile was predatory, meaning legally, she's still mine to protect and retrieve. Mira moved forward, holding a document. Actually, that's incorrect. Thornwood Pack records show formal exile proceedings 6 weeks ago, signed by you, witnessed by your beta and council. Marcus paled. Where did you get that? I have excellent researchers. Mira's expression was serene. Would you like me to read the relevant sections aloud? The part where you declared Alara without value to pack cohesion is particularly illuminating. The copper taste of lies intensified. Alara could feel Marcus's panic like static electricity. He hadn't expected this, hadn't prepared for anyone to actually check his story. The exile was temporary, he tried. A disciplinary measure, not permanent abandonment. Then why come now? Kieran asked. 6 weeks later? If you cared about her welfare, you would have searched immediately. Silence. Alara felt the truth before Marcus spoke it, jagged, desperate, dangerous. Because I know what she is, Marcus said finally, dropping pretense. His eyes locked on Alara. The Pathfinder mark. I saw it years ago but convinced myself I was mistaken. But recent events. Complications in my territory. I need her gift. Need? Kieran's voice went deadly quiet. That's an interesting word. I have rights. You have nothing. Kieran stood, and the room temperature seemed to drop. You exiled her, abandoned her, left her to die. Whatever legal technicalities you're hiding behind are irrelevant. Alara is under my protection now, and I don't release what's mine. What's mine? The words hung in the air. Marcus's eyes narrowed. You can't keep her prisoner. I'm not a prisoner, Alara interrupted. I'm here by choice, my choice. The one you never let me have. You're being manipulated. He's using you the way you used me for 23 years. Anger finally broke through her control. The way you kept me hungry and small and silent so I'd never realize what I could become. At least Kieran feeds me, teaches me, treats me like I'm worth something. You're a Pathfinder, Marcus said desperately. Do you understand what that means? The power you could— Exactly. Mira's voice was cold. The power she could wield. That's what this is about, not her welfare, not pack loyalty. You want to use her gift to consolidate your failing authority. Marcus's face twisted. My territory is unstable. Rival packs are circling. I need every advantage. So you admit it, Kieran said. This isn't about protection. It's about exploitation. I'm her alpha. No, Alara said quietly. You were my alpha, past tense. You gave up that right when you threw me away. I'm not coming back. Not now. Not ever. Marcus stared at her, and for the first time, she saw him clearly. Not a powerful alpha, but a frightened man clinging to control he was losing. His territory was failing. His authority was challenged, and he'd come here hoping to reclaim the one asset he'd been too blind to value until it was gone. The law, he tried once more. The law, Kieran said, is clear. Formal exile, documented and witnessed, severs pack bonds. Alara is free, and she's chosen to stay here. He moved to stand beside her. You have no claim, no rights, and no welcome in my territory if you continue this harassment. Marcus's wolves shifted uneasily behind him. They could feel the power dynamics. A king in his own domain versus an alpha losing ground. This isn't over, Marcus said, voice tight with barely controlled rage. Yes, Kieran replied calmly. It is. Leave. Now. Before I have you removed for trespassing. For a moment, Alara thought Marcus might attack. His whole body vibrated with fury and humiliation. But he wasn't stupid enough to challenge a king surrounded by loyal guards in his own stronghold. You'll regret this, Marcus said, looking at Alara. Both of you. He turned and left, his wolves following, defeat in every line of his posture. The doors closed. Alara's knees went weak. Kieran caught her elbow, steadying her. Breathe, he said quietly. You did well. He's going to come back. Find another way. Let him try. Kieran's expression was granite. He has no power here. And you're not going back to being small for anyone's convenience. Mira approached, studying Alara with approval. Your gift was active the whole time. You read his lies perfectly, responded with your truth. That's mastery most Pathfinders take years to develop. I just said what I felt. Exactly. You trusted yourself. The Oracle smiled. That's the real power. Not the gift. The courage to honor what it tells you. Tobias entered, carrying wine. I thought celebrations might be in order. Watching Marcus forced to retreat was profoundly satisfying. Despite the trembling in her hands, Alara laughed. That's one word for it. They moved to a smaller sitting room, tension gradually releasing as wine was poured and the reality settled. She'd faced her former alpha, refused his manipulation, claimed her own sovereignty. He'll spread rumors, Kieran said eventually. Try to damage your reputation, make you seem unstable or manipulated. Let him, Alara said, surprising herself. The people who matter know the truth, the rest. She shrugged. I survived his worst. I can survive his gossip. Kieran raised his glass. To survival, and the courage to choose ourselves. They drank as sunset painted the room gold. Later, alone in her room, Alara stood at the window watching stars emerge. Her wolf was calm now, settled, content in a way she'd never experienced. Freedom, she realized, wasn't the absence of chains. It was the presence of choice. And for the first time in her life, she was choosing. The weeks that followed Marcus's departure fell into rhythms Alara had never known. Mornings training with Kieran, afternoons learning with Mira, evenings in quiet companionship. Her body grew stronger, her gift sharpened, and something else shifted, something neither she nor Kieran acknowledged, but both felt growing between them. It started small. His hand lingering on her shoulder during practice, her awareness of his presence even when he entered a room silently. The way conversations stretched long past necessity, both reluctant to break the connection. Tobias noticed first. You're staring, he said one morning, catching Alara watching Kieran work through correspondence in the garden. She flushed. I wasn't. You were. And he does the same when you're not looking. Tobias's smile was knowing. The question is what you're going to do about it. Nothing. He's a king. I'm a powerful pathfinder who saved herself and is quickly becoming essential to this household. Tobias leaned against the doorframe. Stop diminishing yourself. It's a hard habit to break, I know. But you're allowed to want things, Alara. Even complicated things. She didn't answer. That afternoon, Mira's lesson took an unexpected turn. Today we work on bonds, the Oracle said, lighting candles in the familiar triangle pattern. Pathfinders don't just sense truth, you can also sense connection, the threads that tie souls together. Like mates, among other things, friendship, family, loyalty, all create threads, some stronger than others. Mira gestured to the candles. Close your eyes. Feel for the threads connecting you to this household. Alara obeyed, sinking into that now familiar state of awareness. Immediately she sensed them. Gossamer strands of light connecting her to Tobias, warm, steady, fraternal. To Mara, silver, ancient, mentoring. To the guards and staff, thinner but present. And then, Kieran. His thread was different. Thicker, brighter, pulsing with intensity that made her breath catch. It didn't just connect them, it blazed, golden and insistent like something alive. Her eyes snapped open. Mira was watching her with knowing gentleness. You felt it. What is that? A bond, forming, strengthening. The oracle's expression was careful. Not a mate bond, those are silver. This is gold, rarer, more complicated. I don't understand. A fate bond, when two souls are meant to intersect, not necessarily romantically, but purposefully, their paths intertwined by something larger than individual choice. Mira paused. The moon sometimes ties people together because their healing requires each other. Ilara's heart raced. Does he feel it too? He's not a pathfinder. He won't sense it the way you do. But he feels something. I've seen how he looks at you, how he's changed since you arrived. Changed how? Softer. More like the man he was before Celine's betrayal, before guilt made him into stone. Mira took Ilara's hands. But you need to understand something. Kieran doesn't trust easily, and he doesn't forgive himself at all. A fate bond won't guarantee anything. It just means you have the potential to matter to each other profoundly. What if I don't want that responsibility? Then tell him. Establish boundaries. You're not obligated to fulfill cosmic suggestions. Mira's smile was sad. But running from connection because it's frightening. That's just another kind of exile, Ilara. The words haunted her through dinner. A small gathering, just household core members. Kieran sat across from her, discussing territory politics with Tobias, but his eyes kept finding hers between sentences. After the meal, he caught her in the hallway. Walk with me? They moved through the garden under moonlight, frost glittering on winter roses. For a long time, neither spoke. You've been quiet today, Kieran said finally. Mira's lesson was intense. She has a gift for that. He paused by the fountain. What did you learn? Ilara considered lying, then remembered she was a pathfinder, trained to honor truth. About bonds, how to sense the connections between people. And I can see them, threads of light, different colors for different relationships. Kieran turned to face her fully. What color is ours? Her breath caught. Gold. Meaning? Fate bond, according to Mira, when the moon ties two people together because they're meant to. She struggled for words. Help each other heal. Silence stretched between them, charged and fragile. I don't know how to do this, Kieran said quietly. I killed my mate, executed her myself. How does someone come back from that? How do I trust myself with... He gestured helplessly at the space between them. I don't know either, Ilara admitted. I spent 23 years being told I was worthless. Even now, part of me expects this all to be temporary, that you'll realize you made a mistake and... Never. The word was fierce. Ilara, you are not a mistake. You are not temporary. You are... He stopped, jaw working. I don't have words for what you've become in this house, in my life. She stepped closer. Try. Purpose, clarity, a reason to stop punishing myself and start believing redemption might actually be possible. His hand rose, hesitating near her face. Permission to hope. Ilara caught his hand, pressing it to her cheek. The touch was electric, that golden thread blazing brighter in her awareness. I'm scared, she whispered, of this, of wanting something I've never had, of believing I deserve it. So am I. His thumb traced her cheekbone. But maybe being scared together is better than being brave alone. The kiss happened slowly, mutually, inevitable as sunrise. Gentle at first, then deepening. Not passion, but recognition. Not claiming, but choosing. When they finally broke apart, Alara's wolf was singing. "This doesn't fix everything," Kieran said, forehead pressed to hers. "I know. I'm still broken in 1,000 ways. So am I. And fate bonds don't guarantee happy endings. I know that too." She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "But maybe we don't need guarantees. Maybe we just need to be honest and see what grows." He smiled, genuine, unguarded, beautiful. "When did you become so wise?" "When a king covered me with his cloak and taught me I was worth saving." They stood together in the moonlit garden, two broken people choosing connection over isolation, hope over fear. Above, the moon watched, satisfied. Comment, "Luna," if you'd walk through the storm for someone who saw your worth. Winter deepened, and with it, Ilara's power. She could read emotional signatures across distances now. Sense lies 3 rooms away, feel danger before it materialized. Mira pushed her harder, teaching her to shield her gift when needed, project it when necessary, walk the razor's edge between insight and invasion. "You're ready for advanced work," the oracle said one morning. "Reading objects, sensing past events embedded in physical space." They stood in a locked room Ilara had never entered. Shelves held artifacts, weapons, jewelry, documents sealed in glass. Each one vibrated with history. Mira handed her a dagger. "Tell me its story." The moment Ilara's fingers touched the hilt, images flooded her mind. A battlefield under gray skies, a woman fighting desperately, blood on snow, betrayal. The dagger sliding between ribs, wielded by a hand that should have been trusted. Ilara gasped, dropping the weapon. "Celine's dagger," she whispered. "The one she used to—" "Yes." Mara's expression was grave. "The one she used trying to assassinate Kieran before he could arrest her for treason. It's been locked here since her execution." "Why keep it?" "Because forgetting history means repeating it." The oracle retrieved the dagger carefully. "And because Kieran won't let himself forget what trusting the wrong person cost." Ilara's stomach turned. "He still loves her." "No. He still punishes himself for loving someone capable of such betrayal. There's a difference." Mira set the dagger aside. "Love and guilt are not the same thing, though they can look similar from outside." "Does he know about us? The bond?" "I haven't told him. That's your choice to make." Mira studied her. "But he's not stupid, Ilara. He feels something. He just doesn't have a name for it yet." That evening, Tobias found Ilara in the library. "Message arrived from the capital," he said quietly. "The High Council wants Kieran to return. There are questions about his extended absence." "Political pressure?" "Always." Tobias sat across from her. "Several council members think he's avoiding duties, hiding. They want him to attend the winter conclave, all the territorial alphas gathering to discuss treaties and territory disputes." "When?" 2 weeks, and they specifically requested he bring his new advisor." Tobias's expression was carefully neutral. "Meaning you. Word has spread about the Pathfinder in his household." Ilara's hands went cold. "I'm not ready for that. Facing dozens of alphas, political intrigue, people who'll see me as powerful, dangerous, essential." Tobias leaned forward. "You are ready. You've grown more in 8 weeks than most people do in years. The question is whether you trust yourself enough to act like it. Marcus will be there. Probably so he'll try to undermine me, spread his version of events. Let him." Tobias's smile was sharp. "You have the truth and the king's protection. Marcus has desperation and declining authority. You've already won that war, Ilara. Now you just need to show up and prove it. She found Kieran later, standing on the manor's highest balcony, watching stars. "Tobias told you about the conclave," he said without turning. "Yes. You don't have to go. I can make excuses." "No." Ilara moved beside him. "I want to go. Face Marcus publicly. Show everyone that I'm not who he said I was." Kieran finally looked at her. "This will be dangerous, not physically, politically. There will be alphas who see Pathfinders as threats. Others who'll try to manipulate you for their own gains. And Marcus will absolutely attempt to destroy your credibility. Then I'll need a good teacher." She met his eyes. Someone who knows how to navigate royal politics without losing his soul. His smile was wry. "I'm not sure I'm qualified for that. I've been hiding here for months, avoiding exactly those complications." "Why?" "Because every time I sit in those council chambers, I see her. Celine. The lies I believed, the signs I missed. The people who died because I was too in love to see truth." He gripped the balcony rail. "But maybe that's exactly why I need a Pathfinder beside me now. Someone who can sense what I'm too close to see." "Is that what I am to you? A political tool?" "No." He turned fully, taking her hands. "You're the reason I'm willing to try again. To believe I can rule with both strength and mercy. To trust that not everyone I care about will betray me." The golden thread blazed between them. "Then we go together," Ilara said, "and we face whatever comes." He kissed her, brief, fierce, full of promise and fear in equal measure. 2 weeks to prepare for the most important performance of her life. 2 weeks to prove she was more than Marcus's cast-off. 2 weeks to show the world what a Pathfinder could become when someone finally believed in her. The moon watched, and winter deepened, and destiny moved closer with every passing night. The capital rose from the northern plains like a crown of stone and ice, towers glittering with frost, walls thick enough to hold back armies, streets bustling with wolves from every territory. Ilara had never seen so many people, so much power concentrated in one place. "Stay close," Kieran murmured as their carriage rolled through the gates. "The palace is beautiful and deadly in equal measure." The conclave was held in the Great Hall, a massive chamber where territorial alphas gathered beneath ancient banners. Ilara entered beside Kieran, wearing deep blue silk that Mera had insisted commanded respect without threatening masculinity. Every eye turned to assess her. She felt their judgment like physical weight, curiosity, suspicion, hunger. Several alphas recognized what she was, immediately. Their fear tasted like copper on her tongue. Marcus stood among the Thornwood delegation, his expression carefully controlled. But Ilara's gift caught everything beneath: rage, humiliation, desperate calculation. "Your Majesty." An older alpha approached, silver-haired, scarred, radiating authority. "We've missed your presence these months." "Alpha Brennan." Kieran's tone was diplomatic. "May I introduce Ilara, my chief advisor?" Brennan's eyes sharpened. "The Pathfinder. We've heard rumors." "I prefer facts to rumors," Ilara said evenly. "So do I." Brennan smiled, genuinely amused. "Which is why I look forward to watching you work, young one. It's been centuries since a Pathfinder walked these halls." The formal proceedings began: treaty negotiations, territory disputes, economic discussions. Ilara sat beside Kieran's throne, reading the room constantly, sensing lies, alliances, hidden agendas. She leaned close during a break. "Alpha Corvin is lying about his timber exports. He's selling to rogues." Kieran's expression didn't change, but his hand found hers briefly. "Proof?" His second-in-command knows. The guilt is eating him alive. Within an hour, Kieran had maneuvered Corvin into a contradiction, exposed the illegal trade, and strengthened his own authority by discovering the deception through careful investigation. The other alphas watched with new wariness. During the evening banquet, Marcus made his move. "Your Majesty," he said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "I must express concern about your advisors. Stability. She was exiled from my pack for erratic behavior and delusions. I worry she may be manipulating." "Interesting." Elara stood, her voice carrying. "Alpha Marcus, is it true you kept no records of my contributions to Thornwood Pack for the 19 years I lived there?" Marcus blinked. "You contributed nothing worth recording. So when you claimed me as pack member to the territorial tax collectors, collecting exemptions based on my labor, those were fraudulent claims?" His face drained of color. "Because I have the documents," Elara continued, pulling papers from her sleeve. "Mira's research, thorough and damning. Showing you collected benefits for my work while providing no compensation. That's embezzlement of crown funds, isn't it?" Silence fell across nearby tables. Kieran stood, taking the documents. His expression was ice. "Alpha Marcus, these are serious accusations." "She's lying." "I don't lie," Elara said quietly. "I'm a pathfinder. I read truth. And right now, your terror is so loud I can barely hear anything else." Marcus lunged. He didn't reach her. Kieran moved like lightning, catching Marcus's wrist, twisting him down to his knees with brutal efficiency. "You dare attack my advisor in my presence?" Kieran's voice was deadly soft. "In my hall? During a sacred conclave?" "She's manipulating you." "No, you tried to manipulate me, used pack law to hide fraud, attempted to reclaim her when you realized her worth." Kieran's grip tightened. "And now you've committed assault during conclave. That's grounds for territory seizure. Please, get out of my sight. Your delegation leaves at dawn, and if you ever approach Elara again, I will personally ensure you regret it." Guards escorted Marcus out, his humiliation complete. The hall erupted in whispers. Elara sat down, hands shaking with adrenaline. Kieran returned to his throne, but his hand found hers beneath the table, grounding, protective. "Well played," he murmured. "Mira's research. I just delivered it." "No, you chose the moment perfectly, waited until he overplayed his hand." His thumb traced her knuckles. "You're a natural at this." Alpha Brennan approached later, respect in his weathered face. "That was masterful, Pathfinder. Political theater at its finest." "That was truth," Elara corrected. "I just made sure everyone heard it." "Even better." He bowed slightly. "The Northern Territories are fortunate to have you." The conclave continued 3 more days. Elara advised on disputes, sensed deceptions, helped Kieran navigate complex negotiations. By the final session, the other alphas treated her with wary respect, no longer questioning her presence, but careful not to lie in her vicinity. On their last night, Kieran found her on the palace balcony, watching snow fall over the capital. "You changed everything," he said, joining her. "In 8 weeks, you went from dying in an alley to commanding respect from the most powerful alphas in the north. I had help. A king who believed in me. No, you believed in yourself. I just provided the space for it to happen." He turned her to face him. "Elara, I need to tell you something." Her heart raced. "What?" "I'm falling in love with you, maybe already have fallen. And I know that's complicated and terrifying, and we're both still broken in our own ways, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel it." The golden thread blazed so bright in her awareness, it was nearly blinding. "I feel it too," she whispered. "The bond, the connection. I've been feeling it for weeks." "The fate bond Mira mentioned? You knew?" "I asked her, after I realized what was happening to my heart." He cupped her face. "I don't know if I deserve this. After Celine, after everything I've done." "Stop." Elara pressed her fingers to his lips. "You're not defined by your worst moment. You're defined by every choice you make after it. And you chose mercy. You chose me. You chose to believe in redemption." "What if I fail you?" "What if I fail you? I'm still learning, still growing, still figuring out who I am. Then we figure it out together." He kissed her, deep, claiming, full of promise. "No more hiding, no more pretending. Whatever comes next, we face it as equals." "As partners," she agreed. "As something more," he said. "If you'll have me, not as a king and subject, but as—" "Chosen mates," Alara finished. "Not fated, not obligated, chosen." His smile was brilliant. "Yes." They stood together as snow fell, two broken people who'd found wholeness in each other's courage. The moon blessed them with silver light, and winter promised spring. Spring came slowly to the northern territories, but when it arrived, it brought transformation. Alara stood in the manor garden, now officially recognized as Queen Consort, though she insisted on keeping Chief Pathfinder Advisor as her primary title. Flowers bloomed where frost had reigned, and her gift had grown beyond anything Mara had anticipated. She could sense truth across the entire capital now, read emotional signatures of crowds, project calm during crises, and detect threats before they manifested. But the greatest transformation was internal. "You look thoughtful," Kieran said, joining her among the roses. "I was remembering that alley, the rain, how close I came to giving up." "Thank the moon you didn't. Thank you for covering me with your cloak." She leaned into him, "For seeing worth when I couldn't." 6 months had passed since the conclave. Marcus had been stripped of his alpha title for fraud. Thornwood Pack, now led by his former beta, who'd sent formal apologies and reparations to Alara. The other territories had adjusted to having a pathfinder in the king's inner circle, though several still kept their distance. Alara didn't mind. Respect born of fear was temporary. Respect earned through integrity lasted. "The delegation from the Eastern Reaches arrives tomorrow," Kieran said. "They want to discuss establishing a Pathfinder training program. You've inspired others to reveal their gifts instead of hiding them. That's terrifying. That's leadership." He turned her to face him. "You've given hope to everyone who was told they were worthless. Shown them that exile doesn't mean ending. Sometimes it means beginning. Only because you gave me the space to discover it. We gave each other that space." He kissed her forehead. "That's what partnership means." Tobias emerged from the house, grinning. "The preparations are ready. Everyone's assembled." Alara's heart jumped. "Already? You can't postpone your own coronation forever," Kieran said, amused. "Come, it's time." They'd kept the ceremony small, household staff, loyal alphas, Mara and Tobias standing as witnesses. No grand spectacle, just sacred ritual under the full moon. Alara wore silver, the color of truth and moonlight. Kieran placed the smaller crown on her head himself, speaking the ancient words of bonding and sovereignty. "You are no longer the rejected," he said, voice carrying across the garden. "You are the redeemed, the pathfinder, the chosen, and you are mine as I am yours, not by fate's demand, but by our mutual courage." "I accept this crown," Alara said, her own voice steady. "Not as decoration, but as responsibility. Not as trophy, but as trust. I will use my gift to serve truth, protect the vulnerable, and remind everyone that redemption is always possible, even after the darkest rejection." Mira stepped forward, binding their wrists with silver cord. "The moon sees you. The north claims you. And we witness your choice, to love despite fear, to trust despite betrayal, to believe that broken things can become beautiful when given space to heal." The ceremony concluded with a simple kiss, witnessed by stars and moon and the people who'd become family. Later, in their private chambers, Kieran held Alara close. "Any regrets?" he asked. "Only that I didn't meet you sooner. The timing was perfect. Earlier, neither of us would have been ready." He stroked her hair. "We needed to be broken first, to understand what we were building." And what are we building? A kingdom where mercy and strength coexist, where gifts are celebrated instead of feared, where the rejected find home and the broken discover they were never truly shattered, just waiting to be seen clearly. Ilara's wolf hummed contentment, finally at peace. "I love you," she said simply. "I love you," he replied. "My queen, my pathfinder, my chosen redemption." Outside, the moon shone silver on new growth, roses blooming in soil that had known only frost, life emerging from what had seemed like ending. In a small room in the eastern wing, a young Omega who'd arrived yesterday, cast out by her pack, terrified and alone, slept peacefully, covered by a warm cloak that smelled of pine and smoke and safety. Tomorrow, Ilara would find her, offer her food, training, choice. Tomorrow, the cycle would continue, broken things finding their way to a place that understood healing takes time, but is always worth attempting. But tonight, she simply stood with her king under moonlight, proof that the homeless Omega who'd once slept in the rain had become someone who could shelter others from their storms. Some nights the rain falls not to cleanse, but to witness. And some mornings, the sun rises on people who refuse to stop becoming. If your heart beat alongside ours, like, comment, and subscribe, because every soul that joins our moon keeps the flame of redemption alive.